talking a moment ago about the promotion, hype, or lack thereof for the Centenary special. So what we're going to do is that we're going to bring the hype ourselves. We are going to be the hype men. And I say hype men, not singular, because I'm not alone. I'm here with Josh Carr from the Who Knew podcast, from Speakeasy, of course. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm very good. I'm very good. It is lovely to be back. I don't
Yes,
know. This might be my fourth time.
yes, fourth time, and hopefully not the fourth technical issue. We'll be all good.
No, hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Hopefully. But yeah, so for those who, for some reason, do not know who you are, if you could introduce yourself to the chat.
Yes, I am Josh Carr. I forgot who I was then. I am Josh Carr. I am a Doctor Who fan, as you might have guessed from the shelf behind me. But also, I host a podcast called Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast, where I interview wonderful people from in and around the world of Doctor Who about their love for the show. And I have a Doctor Who channel where I've started doing some other random videos called Speakeasies, and I am also starting up a fan audio series called The Peculiar Adventures of Doctor Who.
Yes, I'm looking forward to talking to you about all things peculiar shortly.
Yes.
Yes, lots to talk about there. Looks like a very interesting and exciting project. However, let's not go into 2023 just yet, which looks set to be an incredible year for Docky Who. Let's talk about the Centenary special. So we got that trailer at the end of Legend of the Sea Devils, so we know that Vinda, Ace, and Tegan, and the Master, and Ashad, and the Daleks are all going to be returning. So we actually do already know quite a bit, but there's still a lot that we don't know about the Centenary. So I'm wondering if you had any predictions or anything that you're willing to obviously we won't bet real money on it, but if there was an industry for such things, what would you be willing to say, I reckon that's going to happen in the Centenary?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this today. I think here's a bold one out the traps straight away. I think Kate Stewart is going to die.
Yes, we know Kate's going to be back. And yeah, I've
Not for long.
no,
Not for long. She
no,
dead.
no, and her gravestone will say was the daughter of Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart. Wonder how quickly her parental inspiration is going to be named. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it'll be like on the Super Pets poster where it's got Dwayne Johnson's name really big and then the name of the film really small.
yeah,
It'll have Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart fathered and then really, really small
yeah,
Kate Stewart.
and then
But not that it should be like that because I do like Kate Stewart as a character and it's not that I necessarily want to see her die, but I sort of do a bit because I think um, I this is more. I mean, I'm more going into predictions for Series 14, but I did tweet out the other day that I think it'd be fun and it'd be an interesting dynamic shift to have a new leader of unit who is a lot more morally ambiguous. Um, Basically, a Tory peer who's been put in the role by one of his friends.
mm,
And, you've got people on the inside like Osgood who are sort of still trying to fight the good fight whilst being pushed down by the new brigadier,
mm.
who is not a very nice person. And I think that would make for some interesting Doctor Who episodes going forward. But yeah, I think in terms of the centenary, I think Chibnall will want to do something big and he'll want to up the stakes. And I think it's a character he's created, and I don't think he'd have any qualms with killing her off. To be honest, we saw what he did in Torchwood, and that's just horrendous. And I could see him doing something similar here.
Well, we've got Russell Chiechin in the chat who says that she'll be converted and fly off with her cyber dad. like hand in hand they just launch off into the clouds, which is such a morbid image. But no,
Please no.
but it's an interesting point that you bring up because Chris Chibnall, I don't know if he was like the creator of Kate Stewart, but he wrote the first episode that she appeared in, The Power of Three, back in series 7, and it makes me wonder because people on Twitter were surmising that maybe Ace and or Tegan will die in the centenary, and while obviously, I actually think that Chibnall has the authority to do it, even though he didn't create them. I don't think he will, but I like to imagine that there have been discussions where Chibnall is holding both an Ace action figure and a Tegan action figure, like Fourth Doctor Genesis style. Like, do I touch these two strands together? Do I have the right to kill off these characters? And I think he does, because even I've said in the past that I think you shouldn't be beholden to what your predecessor has done. Like, to be consistent, I have to have that approach. Otherwise, I'm just a hypocrite. But
I agree.
I still don't think he should, but I don't know.
I think I don't have a problem with like a new showrunner killing off a character that was created by another showrunner. I have, or another writer or whatever. I have no problem with that in theory. But when you're talking about Ace and Tegan, I think that is pushing it a little bit too far. I think I also just don't see the need. I think, I think you could have if she plays a vital role. Might be a bit of a strange comparison, but you could have the death of someone like Kate Stewart be more akin to like Agent Coulson in Avengers. Spoilers for a 10-year-old film, but like I think it could be that kind of level where it's a death that hurts, but it's not an absolute gut punch. And it's something that can unite all of the characters and sort of bring them back together to fight in her name or in her honor. Ace and Tegan, if you kill either of them, that completely overshadows everything in the episode, I think. Because, as much as like some of these other characters are, they're current and, they've got great legacies, you'd be killing off characters with 40 to 30-40 year legacies that are beloved, and that's not really the aim of your story. Your aim is to give Jodie a big goodbye, not Ace and Tegan, and it would just feel a bit hollow if I'm honest. I think it would just feel like you've brought them back only to kill them.
Yeah, I also think you run the risk of, like, let's say that the third act is resolved by Ace strapping loads of Nitro 9 to her and then leaping from orbit into a Dalek spaceship and destroying it to save the day. And then you feel more emotional about that than the 13th Doctor regenerating. That could really backfire, because you want to give them a satisfying end, but you also don't want to upstage the incumbent Doctor, which is... I know it sounds really clinical when you put it like that, but that's what emotions do you want to wring out of the audience?
Yeah, you need it to be about Jodie and her departure, really.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think that the losing Kate Stewart as like a first act raising of the stakes because things got really real, I think that would be an interesting way to go. We know that. Let's go to returning characters from Flux, not just from the classic series. So I know that Vinder's coming back. I'm really hoping that Belle comes back, because I actually, cards on the table, I really, really liked her in Doctor Who Flux. I thought Thadia Graham was terrific. I thought that it was where the series found most of its heart. And I hope that she comes back, but I don't think there's been any sort of confirmation about it.
No, I don't think there has. I think I would love to see them, because I have this idea in my head of Belle, Vinder, Carvanista, and the as yet but now born child. As yet unborn but now as of now born. That's its full name. I imagine them being this like family unit, like almost like I could see them. I know I'm making a lot of MCU comparisons. It's because I work for Disney. I don't. I could see them being the sort of like Guardians of the Galaxy of the
Yeah.
Doctor Who world, and they're just this sort of mad bunch of sort of mercenaries, like this weird mercenary family who just go around and answer distress signals and try and help people. And they've got the family dog who also happens to be 6 foot tall. And I just think it'd be a really great dynamic. I'd like to see them later on. I'd like to see little baby Belle
Hmm.
um, as like a 5 or 6 year old, but like really like a 5 year old Han Solo, basically,
Yeah.
who's now just like running into rooms with a blaster. I think it would be a really fun little way to go. Um, and Carvanista's basically a nanny, and I just think it'd be. I think they've got there's potential for a very nice dynamic,
Mm.
but also one of my pet peeves with the Chimlera, though I'm a fan of it, is there is a little bit of wasted potential, and I worry that that could just be another one on a long list of wasted things, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. But the way you've described it, I think that Baby Bell would be like the baby Groot to Carvanista's Rocket Raccoon.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
but I think if there
we've
would
nailed this.
if there would be like a spin-off series, I think the very first question is, will Craig Ells be willing to put on the Carvanista costume and wear it for 8 months of the year, however long it takes to film all those episodes of a series?
There's an easy way around that,
Or
and
an
I think
actual dog.
an animated series
Okay.
would be so fun, like a Saturday morning cartoon of these characters
Mm.
like fighting the daftest monsters from Doctor Who history. Like just bring back like the Crotons
Hmm.
and just the Chumbleys
Mm.
and have them face off against them on a Saturday morning. I'd
Yeah.
love that.
The Candyman,
Yeah.
um, the Hoiks for some reason,
Yeah.
just really find the dark corners of
The finale would be called the Battle of Clom
yes,
and
but it's not
many
set
of
on
Zorbalofts.
but it's not set on Clom for some reason, but it's just
No.
called the Battle of Clom. But so we also know that Sasha Dewan is coming back as the Master, rocking
Yes.
different hairstyles, and I'm very excited for that.
Yes.
Part of me hopes he does stay on for Rusty Davis too, but of course it's not. It's not an obligation for him to hire
Mhm.
older master actors. But do you think that he will be central to 13's regeneration, or do you think he'll just say,
100%.
"Lady, you're gonna die," and then he just jets?
100%. And I I feel really bad that I don't know the name now, but someone pitched a great little fan theory about the Master's involvement that I absolutely love. Because obviously we see two different versions of the Master,
Mm,
neither of which really look like the version we've seen. One's very clean cut and almost doctorish,
mm,
and the other is um, sort of basically Rasputin. And I saw a fan theory that was the clean cut, clean shaven doctorish Master is actually the Master from before all of the events of Series 12,
mm,
who has just gotten off the colony ship and is now a good version of the Master,
mm.
following the events of Missy's death and the Doctor falls. And in this story, the events of this story basically lead them to relapse
Mm.
and lead them into the events of Series 12. And then we see this big, hairy master from after all of these events
Mm.
who's now basically unhinged. So I like that idea that we'll see a good master,
Mm.
um, like a Sacha Dhawan playing a good version, a doctorish version of the master, um, and then the events of the story basically lead the master back down that evil path, and then it
Yeah.
sort of it heals all of the gripes that people have about characterization and things like that, because it sort of explains that journey back to the darkness.
Yeah, that sounds like it could really make sense, especially
Yeah.
considering that there is a few elements from his first appearance in Spyfall in Series 12 that don't feel like they've had proper resolution. Like,
Yeah.
who were those dimension hopping creatures that look like the Vord but have nothing in common with the Vord from the
Yeah.
classic series apart from their head shape? And Daniel Barton just walking away at the end of the story as if there's a script, like a page from the script missing. Yeah, so I don't. But then it makes me think, oh, why are you reintroducing all of that stuff, and also Ace and Tegan, and also Vinda? I'm so glad that it could be a 90-minute story because I think it's gonna need it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's there's a lot to pack in, and I do worry a little bit. You know, we very recently had, I think, a story that tried to pack a lot in, but couldn't really pay it all off, and that had 6 episodes. And this might only have 90 minutes, which is a very long episode of Doctor Who. But I do worry that there is a lot that's not going to get tied up. I think the key thing to tie up would be the Master. I think if you're gonna focus on anything, it would be, like you said, those plot elements with the Master and sort of tying up this Master's arc, especially if we aren't going to see Sacha Dhawan again. I think giving him a good send off, if this is the last time that we see him, would be ideal. And then all the Thasmin stuff, I think you've got to bring that to a head, and I think that's going to be sort of key to the regeneration as well. And I could also see a lot of the fans about us being manipulated by the Master coming very true.
Okay, so final bits about the centenary. I'm going to give you a couple of quick fire questions about, like, in a couple of sentences or less, answers to these questions for the centenary. So,
Oh God.
will Jodie regenerate into David Tennant or Ncuti Gatwa?
I'm not sure on it, but David Tennant.
Okay. Do you think that Yaz will shoot or be a part of the Doctor's regeneration?
Unintentionally, yes.
Okay. And last question, will Dan finally plaster something?
Oh yeah. No, Dan's gonna get plastered.
Oh, God.
He's gonna. He's the end. He's got an entire side plot of just getting he's going through his normal adventure as planned, but just every 5 feet he seems to find some alcoholic drink that he must consume, and by the end of it he's just storming into the room like the Doctor in Girl in the Fireplace, and he is absolutely plastered, and he is what eventually causes the Doctor's regeneration, because he just tries to have a scrap with her.
Yeah. So, the Daleks bust through, like, into Unit HQ, breaking down the wall, and then Dan's like, right, I've got to fix this, but first to the mini fridge, and then he doesn't plaster, he gets plastered.
Oh yeah,
Leaks.
he's like,
Leaks are plenty.
lad, I'm off me face, lad.
I was hanging out with a dog a minute ago. You don't want to...
Where's me dog, lad? Where's me dog? Oh,
Where's Di gone? I miss her so much.
I just love you, Di. I love you. You me favourite.
Anyway, right. So now that we've gone over the centenary, let's talk about something a
Evil
little.
drunk Dan. Sorry, someone's just put in the chat. Evil drunk Dan.
Let's talk.
What's the point in being alive?
He gets really existential about it. Let's talk all things peculiar, because you've been working on a fan audio series called The Peculiar Adventures of Doctor Who, and I want to learn
Yes.
more. I want to learn more about it. Just give us the elevator pitch of this series.
Well, this has been a long time coming, and things are ramping up a little bit now. The Peculiar Adventures of Doctor Who is an idea that was birthed basically from a couple of conversations I had on my podcast, Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast, where I spoke to specifically Billy Garrett John, who I know is a friend of the stream, and Darlekian, And we sort of were talking about the concept of the idea that there's enough talent in the fandom to be able to create a full series of Doctor Who. And I meant that sincerely because I genuinely think there is. And it has been proven so far because I thought, well, why don't I just do it? So I started, and that was 18 months ago. I first tweeted out about the Peculiar Adventures of Doctor Who, and announced it as a project, and I got an insane amount of traction from it in my emails. My emails exploded basically, and it sort of all of a sudden became very real. And now we are 18 months down the line, and this series is born. So basically, it is a 12-part fan audio series, full cast audio dramas, akin to the kind of thing that you'd listen to with Big Finish, but more in the format of a TV series of Doctor Who. They are 12 45-minute to an hour long episodes of Doctor Who with a continuous story, an original Doctor, new companions, lots of new characters, lots of new monsters, and it's sort of I love the sort of fan fiction elements of fan audio, where people like bash random characters together and see what kind of dynamics come out. I love that. This isn't really that. This is something that is very different to, I hope, different to any Doctor Who that you'll have seen or heard before, and it tackles sort of new themes. The Doctor is in a very different place to how you will have seen them before. And the companions are brilliant, and you know, we've got companions from the past who are from 1980s Norwich, from 1989. Billy Rowe and Violet Harper. Billy's a young boy, a teenager in care, and Violet is his friend, but also his care worker, who's like in her mid-20s, and she's very politically active in the community. And the Doctor is in a dark place, a place where I said we haven't seen them before, and they are almost learning to become the Doctor again.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting because I even remember when because we met up at the BFI briefly for the Web of
Yeah.
Fear. No, it wasn't the Web of Fear. It was Galaxy 4, sorry, and that was
Yes.
broadcast on the same day as War of the Sontarans. So we're talking like October, November, November last year, and you were still like writing and working on this. So this has been a long time coming as
It
well.
has. I mean, scripts are still not finished. We are getting there, and I've got some amazing. I've got an amazing team of writers working on this. You know, we've got amazing people. So we've got Alfie Innes, Dominique Gagnon, Catherine Wheeler, Stephanie Potter, Ben Byers, Joshua Carpenter, Sam Gingle, who's an amazing artist as well, EJ Robertson, and Tom Musgrove are my writers. And they have done incredible work. Catherine's in the chat right now. They've done incredible work bringing their own ideas to life, their own stories, but also sort of slotting them in to like story arcs, because there's ongoing story arcs throughout the series. There's things that are even set up for potential future series if people like it. So I have a big master plan, but yeah, it's been in the works for a very long time, and I'm very, very excited to be starting work on it and moving forward. So
So the Josh Carr master plan, of course, needs a massive
yeah,
blueprint,
there
and
there is a Bible. There is a Bible that exists, which is a password protected document. I am basically more secretive than Chris Chibnall when it comes to revealing stuff. I know it's bad, but yeah, it's a document that basically has everything you need to know on it. I've now got spreadsheets full of nonsense. I've got my notes is just full of nonsense. It's sort of just consumed my brain for about 18 months, and these characters have just lived in my brain, and now it's moving forward, and it's very scary, but it's very, very exciting because it's hopefully going to be out in the world soon. So
So one other big document you've got, which went live this evening, a
yes,
couple of hours ago,
yeah,
at time of recording this, is the casting call for the Peculiar Adventures of Doctor Who. I've got it on screen now, but there is a link to this in the description below, an iCloud document. Basically, first few pages are the T's and C's, and then the rest are, how many roles we're talking here? Like 60, 70?
it is actually on this casting call 75 roles to be cast, which is, I mean, I can't make a claim as bold as to say that it might be the biggest fan audio or Doctor Who fan audio casting call that I've seen. It's the biggest one I've seen, but I've not done much research. But it is a big old casting call. There are a lot of characters, because obviously this is basically the equivalent of casting a full series of Doctor Who. But we can just go into bigger realms because we've got audio, and we don't have to be restricted by budgets and things like that, because it's fan audio, it's non-profit. I'm not sat at the top of an ivory tower making a load of money off this. I am slowly, very quickly actually losing money on this, but it's something that I just wanted to make. But yeah, it's a massive casting call, and the reason it's been curated like this with 75 roles is sort of back to my original pitch of the Doctor Who fandom being able to make a series. And I want to get as many people involved as possible. I want, I don't want people doubling up on roles. I want 75 actors if I can, because it just means more people have been involved. And it's not just reserved to actors either. Like we've got so many people involved. We're going to be getting people involved on the music side of things, on the editing side of things, graphic design, things like that. But this casting call, I think, is a lot of people's best opportunity to get involved, because there's a lot of minor roles that if you aren't too confident and you want to give it a go, it's not a lot of lines. There's a few like 1 or 2 line roles. There's a few that are slightly bigger, but they're still classed as minor roles, that give you sort of an opportunity to get involved. And there's also some very big roles in there. There's a couple of recurring roles.
One of the roles as well, Margaret Thatcher. What's going on here?
Not saying a word.
I
can't.
The lady that's not returning is going to be in the Peculiar Adventures of Doctor Who.
Yeah, I'm not going to delve into the role as to whether it's big or not. Maybe you can get a flavour from the test lines, but there's a lot of things in there that give hints as to where we might be going in the TARDIS, what we might be doing, and who we might be meeting. But Margaret Thatcher is one that's caught a few eyes. You'll have to wait and see what I do with and to Margaret Thatcher.
Excellent. And I think Russell the Chechen's got it in the chat. Ultimate Adventure remake. There we go. We've cracked the code.
Yeah.
We've cracked the code.
Yeah.
And apparently the password for the document is Margaret Thatcher for life, but it's 4 instead of FOR, the number 4.
Yeah. No, it's Margaret Thatcher for. No, I'm not. I can't say that. I'm sure. No, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, there's some wild roles in there. There are a couple of historical roles. Another thing that I want to say is this is open to everyone, and I mean everyone. Any genders, any sexual orientation, any age, any disabilities. It doesn't matter. I want this to be open, and I want as diverse a cast as possible to represent the fandom. I want as many different kinds of people involved as possible, so that everyone can get their voices heard. And that's purposefully why the casting call, a lot of the roles, obviously some, specifically like historical roles, and some where it's vital to the character. they've sort of been assigned specifics, but a lot of them are sort of listed as any age, any gender, any accents, any whatever. Because it doesn't really matter. We can tweak roles. We can make sure that it fits the actor who's playing it. So.
So, as somebody who's done a casting call for an audio project before, I feel sorry for your inbox, because
Oh my god, it's piling up already. Just
Yep.
before I came on stream, I got my first one, and now I have 15 emails, so it is slowly ramping up. But yeah, 75 roles. I did a casting call for 2 roles last year, and I got over 150 emails for that. So God knows what I'm going to get this time. But I keep them coming because I want them. I want as many as possible. And you've got until the 26th of August at 7 p.m. to get all of your auditions in. And as I said, please read the T's and C's before applying, because I don't want people coming knocking on my door expecting paychecks, because unfortunately I cannot pay you, and I'm really sorry. I wish I could. I wish I could pay everyone for their incredible hard work and the people that have put hard work in so far. But
And Jeremy Duncan in the chat says, "All I want to be is an ood. It's my life's ambition." There is an
Well,
ood
you
in the
can be.
casting sheet.
There is an ood in the casting sheet. There is
Yes.
an ood. There is a Silurian as well. If you wanna have a crack at being a Silurian, there's a role on there. And if you want to be Margaret Thatcher, just go for it, please. Because I'm worried about finding Margaret Thatcher, because I think Margaret Thatcher impersonators are quite thin on the ground, unless I go to Gillian Anderson, basically, or whoever did Spitting Image.
Or Bag of Chips from Drag Race.
Bag of Chips. Ooh, that might be a shout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
But yes, so that casting sheet, you can find a link to it in the description below, and you can send all entrants to whoknewdwpod@gmail.com. Deadline is the 26th of August at 7 p.m, etc., etc. Josh, thank you so much for joining us this evening on the live stream.
Thank you for having me.
And
Thank you.
chatting Peculiar, chatting Centenary. It's been great.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. Just before I go, I mean, if anyone has, like I said, if anyone has any questions, send me an email, or you can find me on Twitter at Josh Ryan Carr, and you can find the podcast Twitter at Who Knew Podcast as well. And you can ping any questions my way. And if anyone feels like sharing the thing around, the casting call around, that would be lovely, because it just means there's more eyes on it and more likelihood that people are going to get involved. So.
Nah, sounds great. Is there anything else you wanted to plug or promote as well? Because you do have a podcast series as well, or anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. It's unfortunately slowed down a little bit, just because I've been working on audio series stuff, and a few guests have had to rearrange with me through to no fault of their own. So it's release schedule's a little bit patchy at the minute, but I'm working to get it back on track. And I've got an episode with Catherine Wheeler, who's one of my brilliant writers, and she's also got an amazing master fanzine coming out, based around the 77 years in Spyfall, with loads of different stories. So please check that out. She'll be on the podcast probably next week. It's going to come out now. And then I've got some amazing guests lined up. I've got someone who worked on Flux, who's coming on the podcast.
Craig Ells.
No, not Craig Ells, I'm afraid. I wish it was. But no, we've got some people coming on that are very exciting. So please check that out. And we've had some wonderful guests, except this bloke called Will. He was a bit weird.
Just gonna finish this call now. No, thank you so much, Josh. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you for being so kind. Chat. If you've got any questions, I'll be hanging around afterwards.
Yes,
so.
And I will try my best to submit 75 auditions under 75 different names and claim all of them.
I can't wait to hear you reading Margaret Thatcher speeches in my DMs.
Yeah, I'm gonna be your new phone answering machine now.
I think you should play Margaret Thatcher, but just with your voice.
Oh,
just normal.
and no one brings it
But
up.
mind you, both you and Thatcher have both been equally cancelled.
Yes,
So
and we've
you
never been
know,
seen in the same room either.
you've both committed crimes tantamount to each other, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's on the same
And
scale, isn't it? Yeah.
it is. Good luck in the cancel zone.
Yes, thank
Um,
you.
I wish you luck. You'll be fine.
Yes,
We've all been there.
and yes, good luck with the Peculiar Adventures of Doctor Who coming in
Thank you.
2023.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I hope to hear all of your lovely voices in my emails very soon.
Josh,
And thanks for having me on.
yes, it's always a pleasure. You take care, buddy. You have a good night. Take it easy.
See ya.
See you. Take care, man.